覚えている。
なら大丈夫だ。
でもやっぱり悲しいよ。
そうだね。世界は悲しみに満ちている。だからそれを笑顔に変えないといけない。
そんなの無理だよ。
今は無理でもいい。
シルビア。
The beginning after the end, episode 3. I want to come to this episode from two angles. One is just pure anime viewer, a sentiment that a lot of you guys may share. And the second is of somebody familiar with the source material. I won't spend much time here. I'll just kind of say a couple of little quick pieces that are non-spoilery. But from an anime perspective, I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, feel like this episode was really boring. Now, it contextually did do a couple of things, but at the same time, it didn't do a lot. As I'm sitting here and, pretending I don't know anything about the source material, right? Like, I don't know anything about what's going on, and I'm just watching this as a viewer that is absorbing this story on face value, because that's all you can do, when you're watching an anime for the first time, is you just take things at face value. You don't know anything about anything. Everything should be introduced to you and should be catered to you as the viewer. Now, as I'm watching this show, as I'm watching this episode, Arthur meets this really weird looking thing, like big looking demon, mecha looking thing, that at the end of the episode ends up being a white, majestic, beautiful dragon. Okay, cool. He spends a lot of time with this thing. We don't really know how much time, but there's a significant amount of time that passes. And Arthur makes that decision to spend time with her because he is satisfied in knowing that his family, in fact, survived. So a unknown amount of time happened, and he was training with her, and eventually he was able to, much like the flashbacks we got when he was king, he was able to, how in that world he unlocked Kai, he was able to unlock mana here and have it envelop his body and stuff. What's unclear is how hard that is, how powerful he became, how much more powerful he is now versus how he was before he got to the cave, how she exactly saved him, which, they're hinting at the end of the episode that she did save him. Again, hints, but not exactly specific. And eventually, at the end of the episode, he's sent away after a really heartfelt back and forth as she stopped time. This Sylvia character stopped time. And she sent him back to be closer to his family, to reunite, blah, 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 blah. And she bequeathed on him 3 very specific things. One, a seal. You have to imagine a seal of the dragon or something where there was some tattoo art. Basically making him more powerful than he maybe could be. I was gonna say a leaf. A feather, which I don't know where she got feathers from. She looks like she's scales, but she gave him a feather, and she wanted him to envelop said feather in a egg, which she gave him an egg as well. And she was like, okay, take care of this egg. And he puts it in his backpack or whatever. He learned some life lessons through her. How much or how little, not sure. And then we get some backstory. Like I said, we already covered it, but we get some backstory where he was deciding to be king or not be king. And he was just a figurehead as a puppet. And he was just a harbinger of death. Stuff. Not knowing anything, I struggled to really like the episode because I just think it was messy, convoluted, complicated, a lot of context, but you can't really tell what context. And it wasn't the worst, but it leaves you asking a lot of questions that you seemingly shouldn't be. Like, this should have clearly answered whatever questions you had based on what was occurring. And then there was another dragon or something that tracked down Sylvia. But then your questions become like, well, how long was she in the cave? Why was she in the cave? Why is she stowed away? How did the other dragon find her? How long was it looking for her? What's the relationship with this dragon? Did she kill him at the end? You have to assume yes. It just leaves you with a lot of open-ended questions. All right. I'll stop there and I'll just say this episode was a very mid episode. 5 out of 10. Best 6 out of 10. And that has nothing to do with the animation. I thought the animation was pretty good. You know, he gets mono, he gets a level up and stuff. And nothing to do with the animation or anything. Just simply on the merit of just the content. Now, flipping the page, okay? So 5, I'll just say 6 out of 10 to be nice, but probably 5 out of 10, okay? Flipping the page as somebody familiar with the source material. And again, I won't spend much time here because I don't, the intention isn't to spoil anything whatsoever. I'm just going to make very broad comments. If you want to stick around, please do. The broad comment is the relationship between Arthur and between Sylvia is supposed to be so deep. There's supposed to be so much context. Most of the things I just commented on do in fact get answered as you're watching the actual or you're reading the source material. The time that passes is like if I don't remember right, I think it's like a year or something crazy. It was either 3 months or 3 years, but it's like a long time. And he bonds with her. She becomes like his second mother. Eventually, he has the moment of calling her grandma, but she sees him as her kin. And what she bequeaths on him is very specific, and it becomes super impactful later on. But the time in which they actually spent having this happen with Sylvia, at the end of it, when they depart from each other, you are very emotional as well. And I just don't think this episode did a good enough job of conveying that. Because really, if I'm watching this not knowing what I know, I'm not going to care about this dragon in the long run. I'm going to move on to the next episode and I'm going to immediately forget. As opposed to the source material, the effects that this dragon lady, you know, I'll just say dragon lady, has on Arthur as a human, as a grown man, as somebody getting in tune with their feelings in this new world are super impactful and super important. And this episode, first off, this should have been like 3 episodes, but this one episode did a horrendous job of conveying that. That's all I'll say. Again, I don't want to be super specific. I don't want to spoil anything because that's not the intention. I just hate that this makes you either 1, not care about it, or 2, want to go and read, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to go read the source material, I guess. But it's also a web novel, so they don't make money off of that either. It's just very weird. But anyway, I think this episode was still not very good, and I just don't like how such an impactful character in the story of Arthur Lewin was not conveyed appropriately, and that is super disappointing. All right, I'll leave you guys on those thoughts there. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you on next episode, my friends. Peace.